The push to reduce dependence on the US dollar in international trade and finance has been a long-standing initiative, particularly among BRICS nations. Driven by a shared goal of enhancing financial sovereignty and addressing vulnerabilities tied to the US-dominated global financial system, these countries have actively sought alternatives to the dollar. Over the past decade, BRICS nations have led the charge in promoting dollarization for several reasons. Recently, this trend has expanded beyond the BRICS bloc, with Europe, spearheaded by France, now taking part. In this video, we will explore how dollarization is gaining momentum not only among BRICS countries but also among traditional US allies. Before diving into France's recent initiative, which is backed by the EU, let's first examine the evolution of trade between the European Union and China over the years. The China-EU trade relationship, a complex partnership. The trade relationship between China and the European Union has become one of the most significant and intricate global economic partnerships, characterized by growing collaboration, strategic alliances, and challenges. This relationship has evolved through various phases, from formalized cooperation to contentious trade disputes, reflecting both shared interests and divergent priorities. Historical foundations of the China-EU trade relationship. The roots of the China-EU trade relationship can be traced back to 1975, when the European Economic Community, EEC, established diplomatic ties with China. This milestone laid the foundation for economic engagement, eventually leading to the signing of the Trade and Economic Cooperation Agreement in 1985. This agreement solidified their growing trade relations, setting the stage for sustained economic growth between the two entities. A major turning point came in 2001 when China joined the World Trade Organization, WTO, significantly boosting trade flows between the EU and China. This development reduced trade barriers and aligned China with international trade rules, enabling European businesses to enter the Chinese market more easily while increasing Chinese exports to the EU. In 2003, the two sides deepened their relationship by establishing a comprehensive strategic partnership, signaling a commitment to broad-based cooperation. Over the decades, China's economic rise has positioned it as an increasingly crucial trading partner for the European Union, EU. By 2023, China had become the EU's third-largest export destination and its largest source of imports. The volume of goods traded between the two economies had surged to an impressive $2.3 billion per day, highlighting the deepening economic interdependence between the two regions. Key sectors of trade include machinery, vehicles, pharmaceuticals, and consumer goods, demonstrating the complementary nature of their economies. However, the trade relationship is characterized by a significant structural imbalance. The EU has consistently experienced a trade deficit with China, which reached nearly $400 billion by 2023. This imbalance underscores the EU's heavy reliance on Chinese imports, especially in high-demand sectors such as electronics, textiles, and industrial machinery. At the same time, the EU continues to face barriers to market access in China, particularly in sectors like agriculture and technology. In recent years, tensions have emerged in the China-EU trade relationship. One of the most significant developments occurred in 2023 when the EU initiated an anti-subsidy investigation into Chinese electric vehicle, EV imports, expressing concerns about unfair competition due to Chinese state subsidies. This investigation was aimed at protecting European domestic industries, which led to strong backlash from Beijing. In retaliation, China launched anti-dumping investigations into European exports, including pork and dairy products. The dispute escalated into broader trade conflicts, reflecting growing friction over market practices and regulatory frameworks. By November 2024, these tensions culminated in China filing a formal complaint with the World Trade Organization, WTO, challenging the EU's tariffs on Chinese EVs and accusing the EU of engaging in protectionist measures. In an unexpected twist, the past few years have seen Western nations, traditionally aligned with the US in financial policy, begin to explore ways to reduce their reliance on the US dollar. Notably, France and Germany have taken steps to align with this trend, seeking alternatives to dollar-based transactions. A landmark event in this shift occurred in March 2023, when France's Total Energies and China's China National Offshore Oil Corporation, CNOOC, conducted China's first LNG transaction settled in yuan. This deal, which involved 65,000 tons of LNG imported from the United Arab Emirates, was executed via the Shanghai Petroleum and Natural Gas Exchange. This transaction marked a significant move by French companies to reduce their dependence on the US dollar while strengthening economic ties with China. It also aligned with China's broader push to internationalize the yuan and challenge the dominance of the US dollar in global trade. Following this precedent, other companies have followed suit, engaging in yuan-settled LNG trades, including a notable deal between COK and France's NG in October 2023. This shift reflects a broader strategy by many nations to diversify their currency holdings and reduce exposure to dollar fluctuations, driven by concerns over the US's growing use of the dollar in geopolitical maneuvering, particularly through sanctions. The EU, in particular, has expressed concern about the weaponization of the US dollar, which has placed European businesses at a disadvantage due to the impact of US sanctions. These measures have sparked debates within the EU about reducing the bloc's reliance on the dollar. As a result, the euro's share in global foreign exchange reserves fell to just 20% in 2023, its lowest level in 2 decades. Reserve managers looking for stability and lower risk exposure increasingly favored the US dollar and Japanese yen over the euro. In response, the EU has undertaken measures to enhance the international standing of the euro, aiming to bolster its role as a global reserve currency and reduce the reliance on the US dollar for trade and financial transactions. In conclusion, the growing economic ties between China and the EU have reshaped the global trade landscape, but also highlighted areas of tension and imbalance. As both sides grapple with trade disputes, regulatory challenges, and the evolving role of the US dollar, the future of their relationship will depend on how effectively they can address these challenges while navigating an increasingly multipolar global economy. The European Central Bank, ECB, has emphasized the need for greater financial integration within the European Union to strengthen the euro's global position. One key initiative is to promote the euro's use in energy contracts and the development of a digital euro. These steps are aimed at enhancing the attractiveness of the euro in international markets, making it a more competitive currency in global trade. At the same time, Western nations are increasingly exploring alternatives to the US dollar, with various factors driving this shift. Engaging in non-dollar trade with major economies like China offers significant financial advantages, particularly as China, the world's largest exporter, has been actively encouraging the use of its own currency, the yuan, in international trade. This change enables Western countries to negotiate more favorable trade terms and diversify their foreign exchange reserves, reducing their dependence on the US dollar. A notable example occurred in 2023 when China and Brazil reached an agreement to trade in their respective currencies, bypassing the US dollar altogether. The growing momentum toward de-dollarization has raised concerns within the United States, particularly from President-elect Donald Trump. He has issued stern warnings to the BRICS nations, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, over their increasing efforts to reduce reliance on the US dollar. In particular, Trump has expressed alarm at the BRICS discussions surrounding the creation of a new reserve currency to challenge the dollar's dominance. He has threatened to impose sanctions of up to 100% on BRICS countries actively pursuing such alternatives, highlighting the economic and geopolitical ramifications of this shift. For decades, the US dollar has served as the cornerstone of global trade and finance, providing the United States with significant leverage in international markets. Any move away from dollar hegemony could weaken this influence, disrupt global financial stability, and reduce the US's ability to impose effective economic sanctions. Trump views the dollar's position as the world's primary reserve currency, not only as an economic advantage, but as a crucial strategic asset for the United States. In response, the BRICS nations have accelerated discussions on alternative currencies, driven by a desire for greater financial independence and resilience against US monetary policy. China and Russia have been at the forefront of efforts to trade in their own currencies and reduce their dollar-denominated reserves. Initiatives like the BRICS Contingent Reserve Arrangement and ongoing discussions about a unified BRICS currency underscore the group's commitment to reducing reliance on the dollar. Trump's proposed sanctions could have far-reaching consequences, potentially affecting a wide range of industries and international trade flows. However, such measures could also provoke retaliatory actions, further galvanizing support for de-dollarization among countries wary of U.S. economic dominance. Analysts point out that while the U.S. maintains a strong position in global finance, the growing influence of BRICS nations and the steady development of alternative financial systems present a credible challenge to the dollar's primacy. As President-elect Trump prepares to take office, his administration will face the delicate challenge of balancing punitive actions with diplomatic efforts to maintain the dollar's global dominance. The international community is closely watching these developments, as the outcome of this geopolitical standoff has the potential to reshape the global financial landscape for decades to come. The shift toward de-dollarization could mark the beginning of a significant transformation in international trade and currency use, with far-reaching consequences for the U.S. and the global economy. Pause for a moment. If you've enjoyed our content, don't forget to show your support by liking this video and subscribing to our channel. This not only helps us reach a broader audience, but also strengthens our community. Your thoughts and feedback in the comments have an even bigger impact, so please feel free to share them. Thank you for watching, and now, let's dive back in. Diversifying currency usage. The increasing move to diversify currency usage allows countries to reduce their dependence on the US dollar, which helps mitigate exposure to US monetary policies and potential sanctions. Historically, the United States has leveraged the global dominance of the dollar to impose economic sanctions, which can have wide-reaching impacts on targeted nations. By exploring alternative currencies, countries can maintain greater sovereignty over their economic activities. The BRICS nations, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, have been leading this movement. These nations aim to lessen their reliance on the dollar, seeking to enhance their geopolitical autonomy and reduce the potential negative effects of US economic policies. As these emerging economies grow in importance, their push for a more multipolar global financial system is gaining momentum. The emergence of a multipolar global financial system. The idea of a multipolar financial system reflects a shift away from a single dominant currency, notably the US dollar. This movement encourages countries, particularly those in the BRICS group, to explore the creation of new reserve currencies that could challenge the dollar's hegemonic status. While the US dollar still accounts for approximately 58% of global foreign exchange reserves, the growing initiatives by emerging economies indicate a shift towards a more diversified financial landscape. Although the dollar remains the primary currency used in global trade, with over 50% of international reserves still denominated in USD, the gradual increase in the use of alternative currencies is reshaping global economic dynamics. This shift is a clear reflection of evolving power structures in international finance. Western nations and their evolving role. The involvement of Western nations in these shifting dynamics further amplifies the importance of diversifying currency use. What was once considered a BRICS-driven initiative is now becoming a broader global trend. As emerging economies gain ground, this evolution could accelerate the development of alternative financial systems and currencies, potentially altering global trade norms. Notably, countries like France are increasingly engaging in trade transactions that are denominated in currencies other than the US dollar, such as the Chinese yuan. This marks a strategic shift towards reducing reliance on the dollar and exploring greater financial independence from the US. France's growing engagement with the Chinese yuan. In 2023, France's engagement in transactions denominated in yuan grew significantly. For instance, in March 2023, the French energy company Total Energies completed the first yuan-settled liquefied natural gas (LNG) trade with the China National Offshore Oil Corporation (CNOOC), marking a key milestone in China's efforts to internationalize its currency. This transaction involved approximately 65,000 tons of LNG imported from the United Arab Emirates, and was settled through the Shanghai Petroleum and Natural Gas Exchange. Furthermore, during a state visit to China in April 2023, French President Emmanuel Macron oversaw the signing of a landmark agreement between French shipping giant CMA-CGM and China State Shipbuilding Corporation, CSSC. This deal, valued at approximately 21 billion yuan, around $3.1 billion, was the largest shipbuilding order placed in China, involving the construction of 16 vessels. In 2023, the trade value between China and France amounted to 5,551 billion yuan, around $7.81 billion, reflecting a 3.1% year-on-year increase. China's imports from France reached 2,624.2 billion yuan, an increase of 10.9% from the previous year, highlighting the growing demand for high-quality French goods such as dairy, wine, and pork. In the first quarter of 2024, bilateral trade between the two countries totaled 12.722 billion yuan, $17.99 billion, continuing a steady growth rate of 5.9% annually between 2019 and 2023. France has also become China's leading supplier of agricultural products in the European Union, with total agricultural imports from France reaching 10 billion yuan. Challenges and trade tensions. Despite these positive trends, there have been trade tensions. In October 2024, China imposed temporary anti-dumping measures on European brandy imports, particularly affecting French cognac producers. This move came in response to the European Union's decision to apply tariffs on Chinese electric vehicles, marking a tit-for-tat escalation in trade disputes. The French government has criticized these actions as politically motivated and unjustified, and plans to challenge them at the World Trade Organization. Nevertheless, both nations continue to pursue avenues for cooperation. In May 2024, during the China-France high-level economic and financial dialogue, both sides reaffirmed their commitment to deepening economic exchanges and enhancing trade relations. This dialogue underscores the importance both countries place on maintaining a stable and mutually beneficial economic partnership, despite the challenges that arise. Mitigating risks through yuan adoption. By adopting the Chinese yuan in bilateral trade, French companies can mitigate risks associated with the US dollar. This reduces exposure to American financial extraterritoriality, where US laws affect international transactions. By conducting transactions directly in yuan, French firms can bypass US banks as intermediaries, thus facilitating direct purchases in China without relying on the US financial system. This aligns with China's broader strategy to internationalize the yuan, aiming to reduce the world's dependency on the US dollar for global trade. The growing use of the yuan in international transactions not only strengthens China's economic influence, but also signals a shift in the international financial system towards a more diversified, multipolar structure. Conclusion, and that's all for today's video. Thank you for watching. We sincerely appreciate you joining us. If this content resonated with you or sparked some inspiration, please consider liking the video and subscribing to stay connected with our community. Your support means a lot to us. Feel free to watch another video from our channel, now available on the screen.